we're all
Good morning to you. Welcome to ITVS, and this is where we bring to you the best of news, entertainment, and education stories, every other thing, just to make sure that you feel comfortable anywhere that you are. Wherever you're watching us from, I want to say welcome on board. My name is Tayo Folorenshaw. Well, on this session, we'll bring to you newspaper review, and we'll talk more about pertinent stories, happening in most of our dailies as of this morning. We don't just read out the news to you. We don't just talk about them, but definitely we try as much as possible to bring to you a talk about some of these issues. So once again, I want to say good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, in Nigeria, today we have a particular brooding problem, like something coming as a result of socioeconomic downturn in Nigeria. And that is talking about kidnapping and the epidemics, spreading across the country, Nigeria. There used to be a time during the past administration of the former president, as President Muhammad Buhari then, that Nigerians could not actually move from one place to another. No matter how limited the kilometers could have been, people did not really want to travel at that point. But then it was getting better at one point or the other. We were getting a relief, a respite, at one point. But it's now becoming as if we are back to the era where, kidnappers are on the prowl, kidnapping anybody. It's not only about the rich at the moment. It's becoming, it's now concerning both the rich and the poor at the same time. And that is where we're going to begin the story with. And security experts have actually accused commercial banks of encouraging the kidnapping epidemic in the country, as some ransoms are paid into bank accounts. Um, in Nigeria, we have what we call we have NIN, we have this BVN, we have all these registrations, database, where pieces of information about people are actually stored, So with your NIN, uh, you can as well be traced, if there is any other thing happening around you. In fact, your NIN, which is your national identity number, is actually linked to your bank account and every other thing that has to do with you in Nigeria at the moment. But it is surprising that even kidnappers ask that ransoms should be paid into personal accounts or into their bank accounts. It's actually the effrontery for me. Like you can't just imagine a situation where someone was kidnapped and he was, or the family, where the family members were being asked to go pay the ransom into a particular bank, or so to say. Is it that the government cannot really, trace all those people, all those kidnappers? Because on daily basis, they keep telling us that we can't reach all those kidnappers. We are yet to get them arrested. We're yet to do this. We're yet to do that, and all those things. Meanwhile, we have this technology. I was listening to one of the minister or former minister in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Issa Pantami, who was in charge of technology, in the past administration, and he was saying that the police has actually refused to make use of most of the technologies put in place before the last administration exited. Could that be intentional? Could that be like a problem brooding in the country? How do we resolve this? You know, It's becoming more and more. Now, the expert analysts who have backgrounds in military intelligence and policing also stress that abductions had become an industry enabled by the financial institutions. His own grouse is actually towards banks and financial institutions trying to aid or encourage ransom payments in Nigeria. The government had come out to say that we should not pay ransom to any kidnapper. But what would you do if you were in that situation? That was the question one of the victims was asking, that what would you do? Would you allow your family members, would you allow your people to be killed by kidnappers? Remember the case of a man whose 6 daughters were kidnapped in Abuja sometimes last week, and because the kidnappers said that they should pay a ransom of 60 million naira before they could release the children. The father could not actually raise the money, and they had to kill the first daughter, just like a kind of a warning, and they had to go dump the body on the roadside. Well, that was when Nigerians started raising GoFundMe and all those things just to rescue the other 5 children. Now it seems that, government had failed us. That was just what most Nigerians were saying, that government had failed. And we can't really count on government. We can't rely on government. There is no hope coming from anywhere. So it's a kind of a problem we're dealing with at the moment, but it is most surprising when you have to look at a situation where ransoms are being paid into bank accounts without any move or ability to trace all those people who own those accounts. Well, apart from that one, you can also find some of those things. Dangote Refineries plans supply to 150,000 IP-man stations in Nigeria. Perhaps we are moving, or we're heading towards, a respite in the oil and gas industry. The crisis which persists in that particular industry may be mitigated either way. But then let's quickly move back to what another story is saying in the Punch today. Also, a man, Hakim Karim, has regained freedom after spending about 3 days in a den of kidnappers who had abducted him along the Benin-Ore Expressway. That was last Wednesday. Remember that last week also some passengers were abducted along Iju, Ikere-Ekiti. That's a few kilometers away from where we are at the moment. And so, some of these things are actually happening. Are we back to the era of kidnapping? Are we back to the era of bandits taking over, running, the town as it used to be? Most times Nigerians believe that we were already moving out of the whole thing, but then it's becoming unbecoming at the moment. So you may want to track that story further. It is something that will definitely catch your fancy. And most prominent also, another one in Vanguard today. Maybe we should quickly move away from Punch. Let's go to Vanguard and let's see. Vanguard is actually saying that it is the wrong time for you to fall ill in Nigeria because patients are lamenting, and most times patients now skip medications. Like if you tell them, okay, take 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the evening. But because of their purchasing power, because they can't really afford to purchase all these medications as a result of high prices, they had to be skipping the medications. They take one in the morning, they skip the one in the afternoon, then later they go to the evening dosage or something like that. This is how most Nigerians have been living at the moment. Now, falling sick at this moment can be challenging in normal times. Do you know how much a bottle of antibiotics costs at the moment in Nigeria? Most pharmaceutical companies have left the country. They're moving away as a result of instability in government economic policies. And at the same time, looking at taxations, multiple taxations, high cost of living, inflations, and cost of buying materials. Generally, everything was just going on, and government was not looking at giving a tax holiday to some important companies, important industries, or, bring down the taxes. But most of these companies were actually paying more and more and more and more taxes at the same time. So you may want to track that story further. It is something that will definitely catch your fancy. But then let me just say that it is not a good time for anybody to fall ill in Nigeria now, because the cost of going to the hospital is unbearable to many Nigerians at the same time. But are we really becoming pawns in the hands of some politicians? That is a question maybe you need to answer also. That story is in Vanguard today, and more other ones, Senate was someone wiki orders over insecurity in Abuja. Abuja has been in the news in the recent time as a result of incessant kidnapping cases, happening in that place. Well, for those people who are actually living in Lagos or who have people living in Lagos, the Lagos state just short of Kiafa, Katangua markets, that's in that particular area. And a lot of things, still happening at the moment. Well, in another news today, alleged 300 billion naira cash diversion. EFCC undecided on ex-governor Odili's prosecution. You may want to track that story further, as some of these anti-corruption agencies are fighting hard, to bring to justice some of the politicians or already discovered politicians, because most of them may not have been discovered at the moment, fighting hard to make sure that they are prosecuted. So, before we take a bow on the show, maybe we'll take a short break. When we come back, we will definitely be looking at Daily Post and what is significant in some other newspapers, that we have. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Back, this is ITVS, and I want to welcome you, to the second lap of the show, newspaper review. Now, the details of the kidnapped victims of the Al Qadria family continue to emerge following the release of the 5 abducted girls by their captors. Remember, I told you in the first half of the show about the family of 7, let me just say 7, that was actually kidnapped in Abuja. They later released the father to go look for money, to go look for ransom of 60 million naira as of then. Then later they killed the first daughter, just as like using that as a kind of a warning to the family. And the kidnappers raised the ransom from 60 million naira to 100 million naira. So later, the remaining 5 girls were rescued. Now, the girls were abducted on January 2nd, along with the second born of the family, Nabiba, as well as their father, Alhaji Mansour Al-Qadria, like I said before, from their home located at Zuma 1 area at the outskirts of Buari town in the FCT. Now, an uncle to the children was shot dead by the bandits as he was trying to invite the police to the scene of the event, and he was killed in the incident. Now, the father was released 3 days later in order to provide 60 million naira. Like I said, the children were actually rescued in the recent time. Najiba, a 500 level quantity surveying student, her younger sister, Nadira, 300 level zoology students, both of the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, and their twin sisters, Abiba and Anisa. Meanwhile, the FCT Police Command, in a statement issued on Sunday, that was yesterday, through the FCT Police Public Relations Officer, SP Josephine Ade, has said the efforts of the command's anti-kidnapping squad led to the rescue of the victims. Meanwhile, there had been, news flying around that ransom was actually paid, because the uncle to these children said that they paid ransom, to the kidnappers before they could be released. So who should we believe? Because the police is saying that it was a combined effort that got all those kidnapped victims released out there. So who should we believe at the moment? It's not becoming as if Nigerians are left, on their own when it comes to security issues, because it's not sure for anybody at the moment. So it's a kind of a story that you could actually read further. Meanwhile, in the country Nigeria today, economy is still looking downwards. That's number one. Then the cost of living is very high. Inflation is at the peak, and Forex is just staggering. It's not stable. As of the last time, it is 1,300 naira, 1,370 naira, to a dollar, a United States dollar. And talking about Great Britain pounds, it was 1,700 naira, almost 2,000 naira at the same time. So these are some of the things, happening in the country, and people are struggling to survive in the country. Civil servants are still begging, for government to pay 35,000 naira palliative promised by Mr. President, which was supposed to start in September. September last year, September 2023. The government paid September, and ever since then, it had not paid. Later, some section of civil servants actually got paid for October, and some did not get up to this time. Salary delay and matters arising. Iju and Ayo. We'll be back in our subsequent news bulletins, to bring you the developments to most of the stories, so that you can have an idea of what precisely is happening. You can always look for us on Limex, and you can watch us live wherever you are. Just try as much as possible to find us out, Immaculate Television, Ibadan. Anywhere that you are, you'll definitely get us. I will be back in our subsequent news bulletin for today. On behalf of the entire production crew, my name is Seyi Tayo Folorisho. Thank you for joining us.